Nicole Kidman has filed for divorce from Keith Urban after 19 years of marriage. The court papers show the actress will remain the primary caregiver of the couple's teenage daughters.
Keith Urban's divorce from Nicole Kidman has recently shocked fans after nearly 2 decades of marriage. After nearly 20 years of what looked like the perfect Hollywood love story, their marriage has come to an end, and fans everywhere are stunned. Sources say Nicole didn't want the divorce and tried everything to save it. But the cracks had been there for years. Remember when Keith admitted he almost ruined things because of addiction? Turns out, that moment was just the beginning. Stay till the end, because in this video, I'll reveal what happened next, and it will leave you speechless. Keith Urban reflects on marriage struggles before divorce. 17 months before Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman announced their separation, Keith had stood on a stage in front of a sea of glittering Hollywood faces and poured his heart out. It was April 2024, at the 49th AFI Life Achievement Award Gala, an evening meant to celebrate Nicole's remarkable career. But Keith's speech that night turned into something deeper, a love letter, a confession, and perhaps, looking back now, a quiet farewell that neither of them yet realized. Many who watched that night had felt moved by his words, thinking they were witnessing a couple whose bond had survived everything. But now, in hindsight, his speech feels more like a fragile echo of a love that had weathered too many storms. As Keith stood beneath the bright lights of Hollywood's Dolby Theater, emotion clung to his voice. He seemed to fight back tears as he looked back on their journey together, speaking not just as a husband honoring his wife, but as a man reckoning with his past. He told the audience how they had married in June 2006, only for his unresolved addictions to nearly destroy their marriage just 4 months later. He admitted that his demons had blown our marriage to smithereens. People in the room listened in silence, feeling the weight of his honesty. After all, how often did a man of his stature stand before the world and admit that love, even great love, can crack under the strain of addiction? Keith's words painted a raw, human picture of two people who had loved fiercely, but not without pain. He looked toward Nicole as she sat in the audience, visibly emotional, and told her that by the next year, he would have been madly in love with you for 20 years. The way he said it made it sound like a promise, one that now feels bittersweet. That moment, once seen as proof of a marriage built on endurance, now seems like the closing chapter of a long and complicated love story. Was it possible that Keith already sensed the quiet distance that had begun to grow between them? In his speech, he didn't shy away from recounting the darkest chapter of their early marriage. He told everyone how, just months after their wedding, he had checked himself into the Betty Ford Center for a 3-month stay. 4 months into a marriage, I'm in rehab for 3 months, with no idea what was going to happen to us, he confessed. There was no attempt to soften the truth, just a man acknowledging the damage he had caused and the uncertainty that followed. What must it have felt like for Nicole then, newly married and already forced to face something so painful? For Keith, the battle with substance abuse hadn't started in 2006. It had deep roots that reached back to the early 1990s, when he was still chasing dreams with his band, The Ranch. He once described that time as living the passion, substance, and rock and roll life, a phase fueled by the chaos and thrill of being young, lost, and hungry for fame. Moving from Australia to the United States in 1992, far from home and nursing the wounds of a broken relationship, he slipped deeper into habits that followed him for years. In a way, his addiction wasn't just about substances, it was about filling the emptiness that success and fame couldn't touch. But amid all the chaos, there was Nicole, steady, patient, and determined. Keith told the audience how she had been the one who refused to walk away. He said she had pushed through every negative voice, including perhaps the doubts whispering inside her own heart, and still chose love. That choice, he admitted, had saved him. She had organized an intervention in 2006, a moment he would later describe as love in action. It wasn't easy love. It was the kind that demands courage, patience, and grace. Who wouldn't be moved by such a gesture? Who wouldn't see it as proof that love could heal even the deepest wounds? Keith spoke of Nicole with reverence, saying she had a capacity for love like no one he had ever met. He admired her passion for life and her emotional depth, qualities he said their daughters were lucky to inherit. Every word felt drenched in gratitude and awe. But perhaps, beneath all that admiration, there was also guilt, the kind that lingers when someone knows how much they've been carried by another's strength. Was it possible that he knew even then that love, no matter how deep, can only sustain so much weight before it begins to bend? He had said similar things before. Back in 2016, during an interview with Rolling Stone, Keith admitted that he had caused the implosion of their marriage in its early days, calling it a miracle that it had survived. On Oprah, he once said Nicole's intervention showed him a kind of love he had never experienced before. For him, it was proof that love could be both fierce and forgiving. But now, with the distance of time, people can't help but wonder, did that forgiveness ever heal the wounds completely? Or did it simply hold them together long enough for the cracks to quietly spread? The night of the AFI Gala was meant to celebrate Nicole's achievements, but it ended up revealing so much more about their marriage than anyone expected. It was a night that showcased their devotion, but also hinted at their scars. Keith's trembling voice, his emotional pauses, and the way he looked at her, all of it told a story of love built on both joy and struggle. In the audience, Nicole smiled through tears, perhaps remembering the battles they had fought together. Now, looking back, that speech feels like a time capsule, a glimpse into a love that had endured so much, yet was quietly nearing its end. It makes one wonder, did they both feel it? That quiet unraveling beneath the applause? Or did they still believe, even then, that love could somehow carry them through everything? Either way, Keith's words that night remain etched in memory. They were the words of a man who had seen the worst of himself and still wanted to honor the woman who stood by him. They were the words of someone who understood too late that even the deepest love can't always conquer everything. And maybe, just maybe, that's what makes his speech so haunting now. Because it wasn't just a tribute. It was the truth, whispered before the world started to crumble. But what came after that quiet confession will leave you stunned. So keep watching till the very end, as Urban's recent actions hint at emotional detachment. Urban's recent actions hint at emotional detachment. In the months leading up to their divorce announcement, many began to notice that something seemed off between Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman. What had once looked like one of Hollywood's most stable marriages slowly began showing signs of trouble, and the changes didn't go unnoticed. People who had followed their love story over the years couldn't help but wonder what was happening behind the scenes. Was their relationship quietly unraveling, while the public remained blissfully unaware? One of the first red flags appeared when fans realized that, for the first time in years, Keith hadn't posted anything to mark their wedding anniversary on June 25th. That simple silence spoke volumes. In the past, he had always taken to social media to share heartfelt tributes to Nicole, words filled with affection and gratitude that reminded the world just how much he adored her. But this time, there was nothing. Not a photo, not a caption, not even a subtle mention. Instead, his online activity focused solely on his music. His posts were about his tour dates, his new releases, and his shows. It seemed as though his energy had completely shifted toward his career. Strangely enough, Nicole also stayed quiet. There were no sweet anniversary notes from her either, which made people start to talk. Could it be that both had already emotionally checked out of the relationship? As the year went on, the distance between them seemed to grow even clearer. Keith started showing up at public events alone, something that used to be rare. In the past, Nicole had been a regular fixture by his side, always supporting him, always smiling proudly from the audience or walking the red carpet next to him. But lately, it seemed he was going solo more often than not. His life appeared to revolve around his career commitments, particularly his Las Vegas residency at Planet Hollywood and his long stretch of shows for the Speed of Now World Tour across North America. Whenever interviewers tried to steer the conversation toward his personal life, he would quickly shift it back to his music. It was almost as if he didn't want to go there, as if discussing anything beyond his songs had become too uncomfortable. Fans scrolling through his Instagram feed noticed the same thing. The once warm and personal page, filled with family snapshots and behind-the-scenes glimpses of his life with Nicole and their daughters, now felt different. It was professional, polished, and focused purely on his performances. Photo after photo captured him under the bright stage lights, guitar in hand, connecting with crowds, but not necessarily revealing much about what was happening behind closed doors. Was this his way of coping, pouring himself into his art to distract from what was happening at home? Even his concerts began to take on a different tone. People who attended his shows spoke about subtle changes in the way he performed. Some said he looked more introspective, less carefree. His set lists also began including more songs with themes of heartbreak and loss. On certain nights, he would introduce a song with a comment that felt personal, something about going through tough times or learning to let go. The words might have seemed vague to a casual listener, but to fans who had followed his marriage for years, they sounded almost like confessions wrapped in melody. Entertainment writers started pointing out how emotionally charged his performances had become. His delivery of breakup lyrics felt raw, almost painfully honest, as if he was singing straight from a wounded heart. Observers couldn't help but connect the dots. The absence of public affection, the solo appearances, the emotional tone of his performances, all these pieces seemed to tell the same story. It painted a picture of a man quietly retreating, creating distance long before any official announcement was made. And though neither Keith nor Nicole publicly addressed the tension at the time, the clues were all there for anyone paying attention. Looking back, it's easy to see how everything slowly fell into place. The silence on their anniversary, the shift in focus to his music, the increasingly personal undertones in his shows. Each sign might have seemed small on its own, but together, they formed a mosaic of a relationship in decline. Perhaps it's true what people say. Before love ends, it fades in the little ways first. Maybe that's exactly what happened here. Two people who once couldn't stop celebrating each other now struggling to find the words, or maybe even the reason, to keep pretending that everything was still the same. Love stories that start like a dream often end with a silence no one wants to talk about. And this one might be no different. But as the whispers grow louder and new faces start appearing in unexpected places, fans can't help but wonder if there's more going on behind the smiles. Because if the rumors are true, this twist might just change everything we thought we knew about their fairy tale. So don't blink. The story's about to take a turn. Who is Keith Urban's rumored new lover? In the wake of Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman's highly publicized separation, it seemed as though the spotlight on Urban's personal life only grew brighter with each passing day. People couldn't help but wonder what was really happening behind the scenes. Was he moving on already? Was there someone new in his life? Those were the kinds of questions swirling through fan discussions and online gossip threads, even though no solid evidence had surfaced to back up any of those claims. What had started as quiet curiosity soon turned into a flood of speculation, much of it centered on one particular name that kept popping up: Maggie Baugh. Maggie, a 24-year-old guitarist and rising country artist, had been seen sharing the stage with Urban at several recent performances. To many fans, it looked like a simple professional partnership. But as the internet tends to do, whispers turned into full-blown rumors almost overnight. Social media users began analyzing photos and clips of their shows, watching every glance and smile between them like detectives on a case. Yet, those who had followed both artists' careers closely knew there was nothing unusual about such collaborations. After all, Urban had a long history of supporting emerging talent in the industry. Still, people couldn't help but ask, was there more to their connection than music? Reports indicated that Urban and Baugh's professional relationship began in early 2024, around the time Urban's Las Vegas residency was in full swing. She occasionally joined him on stage, bringing her lively guitar skills and undeniable stage presence to the spotlight. Fans loved their chemistry on stage, though from all available information, it appeared to be the kind of natural synergy that talented musicians often share. Their social media posts together told a simple story: two artists, passionate about their craft, performing and enjoying the moment. Wasn't that what music was all about anyway? Yet somehow, that narrative didn't seem exciting enough for the rumor mill. Behind the scenes, however, sources close to Urban have repeatedly stated that there was no romantic connection between him and Maggie, or anyone else for that matter, since his split from Nicole Kidman. According to those close to the singer, he had been focused on his music and healing from the emotional toll of his long-term marriage ending. Friends reportedly described him as reflective and deeply committed to his craft, spending most of his time in the studio and on stage, rather than seeking out new relationships. It made sense, didn't it? After all, isn't it natural for someone who's been through a breakup to want space to process and find balance again? Entertainment journalists and reputable outlets have also been careful to note that no credible reports have confirmed Urban's involvement with anyone new. Industry insiders suggested that while it was easy for people to jump to conclusions, Urban seemed more determined than ever to stay grounded in his work. His recent interviews hinted at someone who was still navigating personal change quietly, away from the noise of celebrity speculation. He appeared to be channeling much of his energy into writing new songs that, as some fans pointed out, seemed tinged with a sense of introspection and emotional honesty that only comes from lived experience. Could it be that the heartbreak itself was fueling his creativity? Meanwhile, Maggie Baugh, who found herself suddenly swept into the media storm, has remained calm and professional. She hasn't commented publicly on the rumors, choosing instead to let her music and performances speak for themselves. Those close to her describe her as focused and hardworking, someone who views Urban as both a mentor and an inspiration in her career. In a way, the entire situation served as a reminder of how easily professional collaborations can be misread in the entertainment world. Why was it so hard, people wondered, for two artists to simply share a stage without the world assuming there was romance involved? As time passes, it becomes clearer that the story between Keith Urban and Maggie Baugh is one rooted in artistry rather than romance. He, a seasoned performer healing from the end of a long marriage. She, an ambitious young musician carving her place in the industry. Their connection, while warmly collaborative, remains within the bounds of music and mutual respect. Yet, even as rumors lose steam, one can't help but think about how public figures like Urban must constantly live under a microscope. Every smile, every performance, every gesture is dissected and analyzed until it becomes something it's not. It makes one wonder, does the truth even stand a chance when speculation is so much more entertaining? For now, those closest to the situation maintain that Urban's focus lies entirely on his art, his fans, and his own personal peace. There are no secret romances, no hidden lovers waiting in the wings, just a man navigating a difficult chapter of his life with quiet dignity and music as his outlet. And perhaps that's the real story here, not the rumors of who he might be dating, but how he's choosing to move forward when the world insists on looking backward. With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.